Hi, thank you so much, Jacob, for joining us today for the Lunch and Learn session. Jacob is here to showcase AEM Journaler. So let me just briefly tell you a little bit about AEM Journaler before I hand over to Jacob. So the innovative software is specifically made for capturing and managing cryptocurrency wallets, as well as the reporting of transactions. They rely on blockchain to encrypt and verify data to make it secure, allowing for safe and instantaneous reconciliation of cryptocurrency. We like instantaneous reconciliation. AEM empowers businesses and individuals operating with cryptocurrencies through reducing costs, producing a system adapted to their needs. They support an ever-growing array of different crypto coins, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, XRP and NEM. So lots of different types there. So I'll hand over to you, Jacob. And we've got a lot of people on the session, but they'll also be watching on live in the Facebook groups, and really looking forward to what you've got to share with us today.
Thank you, Heather, and great intro. I will repeat a little bit about ourselves. So as mentioned, we're a cryptocurrency app. Currently, actually, the only crypto app in the Zero marketplace, which is something to be proud of. We've actually developed this integration, working alongside with Zero. The system's been in development for the last few years, and we're adding various features. And on the topic of, taking cryptocurrency data and sending it into Zero, then to other packages, we've, as highlighted by you, there's 5 coins right now. But for those that know cryptocurrency, an issue with cryptocurrency, the currencies keep popping up day in, day out. There's hundreds, if not thousands of them. So one of the big challenges is actually to keep continuously adding those currencies. But what we do at the moment, we just add them one by one as we sort of see the need of users. And we're fairly new. We've only just released this into marketplace in early June. So there's a lot of exciting features still to come up, but the essential bit of sending transaction data that goes into your profit and loss is really the key value proposition. And to maybe talk about the limitations of things on the horizon, will be sooner than later sending information into the balance sheet, where you can actually report your holdings. So that actually will be a very useful feature, secondary to what we've currently sort of integrated with Zero, which is just to report an equivalent transaction that's been transferred through a wallet, and wallet really is an account. So that's one of the confusing things about cryptocurrency. Should I be sharing the screen already, Heather? Is that okay?
Whatever you want to do. You're okay to talk to us. Just
Perfect.
Up to you.
All right, so I'll do a real fast intro because I always find it's easier just to look at something rather than just to listen to me. So if you were to come to Zero Marketplace, you've been in it probably quite often. You can find us in various ways, but the great thing is, let's say you've said crypto, we would actually come up. We are currently only in Australia and New Zealand marketplace. Regardless, that doesn't mean that you cannot subscribe to us, because we are actually integrating with anyone with a Zero account. And also we enable other users to subscribe. Our name, Journaler, it's been, I think you mentioned it, Heather, it's a bit of an old school name, but it kind of centers on creating journals, and we just thought it plays well with what we're trying to do, trying to make this thing relatively simple. Now I wanted to do a quick little intro into how we actually find what we need to input into Journaler, which I'll get into quickly after that. But essentially the most confusing thing where I've gone now, for instance, is a blockchain explorer. So one most confusing thing about cryptocurrency is how to identify and find those accounts. So let's say you've had someone telling you that they want you to report the transactions that occurred. They need to actually give you their wallet address, and wallet addresses are massive. They look like long string of numbers and letters. But that should be the first thing that you've actually asked. If you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, they should actually tell you where's the wallet or what is the address of the wallet. And we've centered our process on that once the client's given you, or even let's say you're the person yourself who's dealing with cryptocurrency, then if you know your wallet address, well, this is what you need to input into Journaler. And this one here is just a random one. Great thing about blockchain is that the transactions are public. This can look a little bit tricky in terms of understanding what you're looking at, but let's get into Journaler where it's just a little bit easier to understand. So we can actually log into Journaler through here. You can in fact use your zero login details. I'll actually go back a step as well, because you could have arrived to us through our website. And on our main page, you can actually go to Journaler. We also do have another app, which is a wallet. That's still under active development, so I won't talk so much about it, but I'll mention it towards the end. So let's say I was here, I've gone in, and I've decided to log in. And the nice thing is you can set up an account, but likewise can do that through your Zero profile, and you can hop in. I'm purposely demonstrating a profile that I've already set up earlier, just because what you'll find that when you're adding a new address, and let's say I actually run an experiment, this address that we just found randomly on the internet, I can just try and add it, and I'll kind of let it load in the background. Just call it random. And that's one of the things to be wary of. Although actually we've done pretty well there. We've added the transaction much faster, so credit to my tech team, they improving the process. But one thing to mention, because the nature of cryptocurrency transactions, and that's what becomes confusing to people, it's this whole decentralized network where people have transactions stored on the local computers or the servers they're running. Obviously, you have to retrieve that data from a decentralized place that someone on their computer had the transaction stored and they let you load it up. So it can take up to half an hour, worst case, especially if we're talking about a large wallet. But here I actually did get quite lucky. I actually found let's say that was my client, his wallet, and I was able to add it very quickly. From there, I can actually see that, well, that wallet is only holding zero money, but as you can see, I've got other wallets here. And with those, there's been some of our test accounts. Through here, I've been actually able to track what is the holding and equivalent AUD amount. The nice thing is we actually support that for various currencies, so people in various regions. But as mentioned before, we do that for primarily Australia and New Zealand at the moment, until we make our platform a little bit more scalable, which means that there won't be any lag or delays if people from other places want to use it. So there's a whole heap of work going in the background, just making sure everything's seamless. And now to the exciting part of what we do, and I'll probably get into the zero part itself. Nice thing that we do let you do, and we're proud of, we can let you integrate various organizations that you may be managing. So we actually have a pretty neat little integration that you not only can link one organization, but 2 or 3 or 4, you name it. And then from those organizations, you can link into your files within Zero to export the data. So I don't want to make this too heavy on the technical side, what we do, but I will maybe perhaps continue a little bit into how this in fact works. And if I was to go, so this is our standard export, but we also let you go create integration through the integration feature, which I'll just give you a superficial overview of what this does. You can basically select one of your wallets, select the date range, and from there, it will let you choose if you're exporting invoices or if you're exporting directly against the bank feed. And if you want to make this a live integration, or if you want to make it a manual integration. Just so you know, again, to talk about the weaknesses, we just in the middle of adding the feature where it will, which has been ready for a while, but it will actually let you filter the transactions in the list down here. And through that list, you'll be able to actually identify which transactions are reportable. So you can select what you want to export rather than push every single thing into zero, which may be quite tricky. But on the other front, I mean, I won't get stuck too much into it, but you would have had to have set up an equivalent account, which I've done here. I've called it a Bitcoin account, for instance, where I send the data. And what you do need to realize, because we've developed this together with Zero, in line with Zero, what Zero lets you do. So Zero will not recognize a cryptocurrency as such within Zero. It will only recognize your local currency. So this is essentially type of spend money, receive money exporter. And we do not do the tax bit for you, but I do have good news. We will be actually integrating that relatively soon, where we're also going to be pushing tax journals into Zero relating to those transactions occurring. So this is something under development. It will be coming out, but in terms of tax and capital gain or loss, because this is treated as an asset, you could probably compare it to stock. That's something an accountant will still have to do, as you know, you'd be doing the annual reconciliation and things like that. But again, to put a bit of a promise there, I believe we should have that feature ready if we go well within the next couple of months, where you actually be able to do the CGT calculation. And that's going to be probably the most amazing thing about us, because at that point, we've actually managed to centralize all the features where people at the moment, they tend to go to all other places to do their tax, then they tend to do a spreadsheet to, you know, have some transactions, then they could create the spreadsheet to export their data, and it gets quite labor intensive. So that's, you know, being true to our mission, we want to make sure that it's actually quite straightforward. And I'll just do one quick little demo here, because I think it's going to be important so you can see what happens. It's always good to see an example, just a very long range. Oh, okay. That was being difficult to me. And I'm actually on my export, but okay. That's actually good to know too. When we do the export, we actually provide a few different subscription packages. But the good thing you'll find with us is you subscribe and it's free. So the first 30 days, even though you'll be prompted to pay, you're actually not paying. It's just taking your payment details, so you can cancel at any time and whenever you want. We actually do have guest profiles that are being developed. So as we are relatively early and new, I'm very keen just to, you know, get people's feedback and work along any one of you out there. I'm happy to sort of, you know, provide more versatile profiles just to test it. And that kind of falls on our enterprise. So you can actually contact us and request access. But as I mentioned, feel free to even go for any package and then just try and subscribe through there. So yeah, for your exports, our exports are actually limited per month. So this is part of our kind of revenue model, that people don't perhaps try and do too much in one go, because it is a bit intensive computation wise with how many exports you do. But yeah, once you've accessed that, you're actually able to load your data, choose how you export it, and I can show you a quick little demo of what the file would look like, which I've loaded before. That was my export file. I'm just going to open it here. So after having exported my data, it does it in a relatively straightforward format, where you can see the date with an exact time. One thing that you may know about cryptocurrency, they fluctuate like crazy. You could, you know, start a day at one value, it could change by 30% by the end of the day. But you know, people use them. They're an exciting thing to invest in. But that's why accounting needs to be done. And part of the reason why we give it data with the date and the time, in case you wanted to check that conversion rate, we give you as much as you need. So you can actually export into a CSV, check what we've actually converted that into for you. And of course, you could still change it. So rather than a direct zero export, we also let you do a spreadsheet export. And the good thing about a spreadsheet export, obviously, you got your accounts or so-called wallets. you got the messages. Some blockchains actually do have messages, and you could push that into anything else, let's say QuickBooks. Again, about some exciting developments going forward. We're actually starting a QuickBooks integration tool. But again, you know, our key value proposition at the moment is zero. We're maximizing the number of features and export features and automations. So I believe that it will take a while for any other system integrations to be as extensive as what we're trying to do with zero over the next couple of months. And yeah, in a nutshell, I'd say that's it. But I'll just go back to here. I'll just have another look. So just as an overview, again, to go back into the whole thing, the way we work is we almost like your online banking panel. You know, let's say you've logged into ANZ, you see a list of your accounts. Well, this is what we've done within AEM Journaler, just because this decentralized data is tricky. One more thing on this, and I'm pretty sure those questions will come up because we've had feedback and we started implementing those features too. Currently, we're pulling the data from the blockchain, which is where the transactions occur for any of those currencies. As mentioned, I can add more, and we will be. Another exciting feature will be actually this export screen is changing significantly, and there will be actually an import option too. So we'll have imported wallets where you can actually push data in and feed it in as well from other sources. So places where people transact often are not the actual blockchain. You find that you have a lot of people just doing transactions on exchanges. I've just purposely pulled one up because a lot of you may be familiar with them. So, you know, from places like Binance, that's one of the exchanges, places where people trade the currency, or any other one, you are actually able to export the transaction data. And once again, although you do not see the CSRI to be clicking through, I'm just trying to get the right tab. I'm nearly there. And now just Zoom's blocking me out, sorry. So we will give you that ability. And I think that will be, again, one of the quite amazing features to be able to do it. So the reason, maybe, if you want to know a bit more about us, we actually work closely with universities. So we're based out of RMIT Blockchain Innovation Hub. And prior to that, we were largely an R&D company before we've had the commercial vision, but we've gone commercial very recently. So we've actually tackled the harder bits first, which is connecting directly to addresses out there in the, you know, this decentralized blockchain space. And now we sort of bringing this back to users. So all the other features are actually based on, you know, active feedback from everyone. And on that, I feel that we could probably wrap up, but just on the technical side, then, you know, you set up your account, you set up your payments. We have 2FA, we have settings for, you know, your local regions and things like that. So that's essentially us. And I know I might be ahead of time.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Is it possible? Is it easy for you? And if it's not, don't worry. To show us what it looks like in Zero.
Yes. So let me have a look. I do have a messy demo account in Zero, so it's going to have to excuse me because we've been pushing a lot of data. But I will.
You could access it and then share it if you want,
exactly.
rather than you access it before you share it. Then maybe that'll be easier.
Thank you. That's actually a very good hint. So 1 second. I'm going into Zero now. Yeah, that's one thing I've actually missed. Let me go into there.
I just think it helps some of our accounting and bookkeeping brains to see what it looks like on the other side. Yeah, I've actually
left this out. All right, good. I mean, so just so you know, this is a total demo account. Like we literally have one file that is just for testing. And as mentioned, we've through the chart of accounts set up an account. I call it Bitcoin account. As you can see, I've done a bit of a dummy thing in there because I've just put all ones against the account number just so it would show up. But then, and I need to see, because why is this demo account doing all this funny things? Sorry, I'm going to go back into bank statements. Let's see. Got it. So
reconcile them all.
Well, as I said, this is all fake data. I'm wondering how this popped up. So maybe someone else was doing some testing. But okay, let me go into the transaction itself. And no, sorry, this is crazy. What is going on here? In simple terms, though, you should be able to see. I can probably stay on the screen. So you are able to see transactions coming through as payee being the address, and then you see money received or spent. So that's one way of integration, and we actually let you can mark the transactions as reconciled or not reconciled, and they landing in the feed of that account. Secondary one, I'll just show you. We do that against invoices, which is quite exciting, because there are people out there doing settlements, and we let you actually export the data against an invoice, or create an invoice. So in fact, the weird thing is, of course, it's gonna create the two person being the address, which is quite cryptic. But you could, of course, change it and modify that, and you can do your usual things out there. So you could have draft invoice or an approved invoice, and so on and so on. You're actually able to, from within Journaler, select where this is going. So this correctly, actually, with put it against our sales. We can have GST on it. We could have set the tax inclusive. So it's pretty much as any other app integration. If you've dealt with apps before, like, let's say, maybe I'll use an example of a random one, but I've been using a lot of Workflow Max before, so I've been doing a lot of exports of invoices to it, and it was sort of looking pretty much like that too. That it would land the invoice in here that you then have to approve, and it lets you, in fact, do any tweaks to it. So these are the two basic ways of sending the data through.
Okay, so you're going to end up with a lot of those sort of long addresses in your contact list.
Yes, and just so you know, this is one thing, again, what we are about to do, but we're not yet doing. We're trying to give you the ability to add contacts, and then within Journaler itself, you could eventually be able to manage your contacts, which will make it a little bit easier. So let's say I would say, Heather, here's your address, and it would essentially, or let's say, I'll just make myself the contact. That's me. Addresses, I can actually store addresses. This is still under development, but there's lots of work to be done on that front. Just because I said that there's trickiness around some of the issues, just like you said, the wrong address. So that will be provided. I don't think it's there yet, but we're not far off to actually give you that ability. And then within Zero, it should look like something normal rather than a massive address that you're just trying to, not to go cross-eyed, trying to figure out what you're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Jacob. Now, I'd like to open up to questions from the community. If anyone has any questions, feel free to take yourself off mute and ask them, or feel free to pop them in the chat area and I'll ask them. No questions there, Electra? You're all across it?
Oh, no. Hello. Thanks for seeing us today, Jacob. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to look at it with everything going on in the last month, but I'm curious to see how it would work with businesses who are paying suppliers with particular wallets. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, short answer, for instance, the supplier may have been raising all the invoices within Zero. If they push the transaction against the bank feed, so more of a spend or receive money transaction, they can then just automatically match it. So the two functions we have is you either make the actual transaction into an invoice, but then you have to be wary that you couldn't have had that same invoice within Zero already. Or if you already have the invoice, you push it against the actual account bank feed, but you will have to create that well, I call it a dummy account, but it's actually not. But it's just an equivalent cash account that represents your cryptocurrency account.
So you would, organise your reports as you need to as an accountant, but it's there on your dashboard to sort of representing like a bank account. So did you say that it's more for a spend, receive money transactions? Does it work with invoicing?
It does. I mean, one thing we just need to remember and to reiterate, because you would normally in Xero have your standard bank account. So let's say you're with ANZ, maybe you're with CBA or any other one. Well, this would be the standard ones you've set up. But if you've got a cryptocurrency account, which actually that's what it is, you've got a wallet, you have to actually create, you could call it, Bitcoin cash account, whatever you want to name it. And once you have that side account there, you can push your cash transactions relating to Bitcoin into that account. And that will obviously let you do the automatic reconciliation against the invoices as you would normally do with any other payments landing in your accounting software. So we just need to remember to set up that account ahead of time that we have it. So you don't want to mistake it and push your transaction data into your ANZ account, because obviously that's a whole different account.
Yeah.
This is your blockchain account out there that you've now created, and then you created your integration.
Okay. Do you know any other questions we should be asking? I think people might have trouble trying to articulate the question.
I actually was going to ask one thing myself as well. So I'm wondering if you're getting questions from people coming, if there's accountants or bookkeepers out there that people wanting to reconcile and what they're asking for, because I've had some interesting conversations with I can give you some examples, businesses exactly wanting to report their holdings. So just out of curiosity, if anyone out there had any feedback.
Well, that wouldn't really be under bank accounts, would it? Like putting it under bank accounts is for, using it as a transaction.
Well, I mean, you put it under your assets. If you go into, essentially, once again, if I jump into here, just to be a bit more active with this. So it's really up to you how you label it. I mean, I've obviously created something called Bitcoin account, but I could have actually created an asset account. I'll just pick any asset.
For example, you would have a wallet that is used for paying people, and you would have a wallet that might be for hodling.
Exactly. So it's really what you want to do, and that's the great thing about Xero. You obviously can go. I'm not
multiple accounts for different purposes, for trade or for trading key like a shareholder, or for investing.
Yeah, you're right. And
those multiple accounts.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You're right, Electra. And I would say, I think you're right. You maybe want to be wary with not calling this a bank account if you prefer not to. But within Xero, you can push against any accounts you want. So you could obviously enable payments into any asset account you created there, and then just label that. Yeah, let's say I'll label it BTC. So that's really all you need to do. You just need to create that account. Make sure you've labeled it what it wanted to be. Make sure you've enabled payments against that account. I wouldn't say to put tax settings on this, because it's going to be, it's always better to have BAS exclusive as default. And then, you can just start essentially playing with it if you got someone wanting to report. Because just so you know, the feedback I had from people, they would actually often go into Excel, create a spreadsheet that would look like a bank feed, and then they would try to push it into Xero through a bank feed. But the challenge is that most times the biggest difficulty is actually that whole conversion bit, which we cover for you. So because we can go historically, we can actually help.
Is it the problem with Xero, the challenge with Xero, I understood that you can't have more than is it 2 or 4 digits?
Well, there's 2 challenges. That's exactly right. Very, very good research. 4 digits is maximum, but the underlying issue is that you can't, for example, Bitcoin is not a recognized currency. It's an asset. So
and it can have very long numbers of digits.
Yeah. So let's say, it's more looked as shares, like as to me in my mind, although I shouldn't, because people are going to argue that it's something else. But if you had shareholdings, you're not going to find your shareholdings on your list of available currencies within Zero, just like you're not going to find Bitcoin. But you are able to push transactions against an equivalent monetary amount. And that's how we've actually overcome that shortfall. But this is also why we're about to add the journals feature that will actually enable you to automatically report your holdings and then roll your journals on and on. So there's some really clever things we're doing that are quite fun if you're into that stuff. But it's all work in progress. I can see some questions coming through.
Yeah, we've had a very long question, which thank you very much to Fee for asking it. I'm kind of new to the whole blockchain and cryptocurrency thing. Is it true that each trading account will have one address? And once we add the address to AEM, transactions, buy, sell, send and receive for a predetermined period will get imported into AEM?
Yes.
And no.
So in principle, yes. You've created an account and that account you attach and you export your data. The biggest issue we have, it's so easy to create accounts. People will just keep populating more and more accounts. And part of it is because blockchain is public. So any one of us, if we know someone's address, let's say I knew Electra's address, I could just be very curious and go, I'm going to see how much Electra is holding in her wallet. So she may not like that. And she may be creating another address the next time around she's doing a transaction, just for a bit of confidentiality. So people tend to create new addresses for various reasons. Like I could be hypothetical here, but let's say I've had 5 clients I deal with. Maybe I've had an address for each client. So people just because it's so easy, and that's actually the biggest advantage of blockchain for cross-border payments and instantaneous stuff. It's not like going into ANZ and asking to set up a new account, although you might be able to do it automatically. On blockchain, I could in the next few seconds create a few more accounts for myself. But to give Fee, I hope I'm pronouncing them correctly, the short answer, yes, stick to the principle. So you can create, there is that one address they give you, you've linked it. But the nice thing that we enable you to do, we've been thinking ahead. So we are actually enabling you to, let's say that client came with one address. Next thing you know, he's got 3 more addresses, but it tells you that those transactions belong to one group of transactions anyway. So if you've actually created for yourself that Bitcoin Cash account, you can link all those accounts into your single account in Zero. So we let you do all this trickiness that becomes relatively simple, because from my experience, you'll see that people will have more than one account, but they're really the owner of the same thing. So it's almost easier to treat it all as, call it cash and push into one account, because you don't want to end up with 20 Bitcoin accounts within your Zero files, because it would just be a mess. So that's my way.
It does sound very tricky, doesn't it? It sounds like a niche area that I imagine some accountants will put their hand up and say, I'm happy to specialize in this. So hopefully that answered your question there, Fee. Fia said thank you. Does anyone else have any questions they would like to ask Jacob while we have him here? I know a few people joined while we went to Q&A, so maybe they were watching it online. If you do have any questions, feel free to turn on your video, ask the question, turn on your microphone, ask the question, or drop it into the chat area while we have Jacob to answer all these questions around AEM and I think the accounting behind cryptocurrency.
Exactly. And I'll just say one thing of the back end of what you just said, Heather. So exactly, people specialize in this because you need to understand the nature of those transactions and what people do and how they behave. But this is why a lot of times companies would go to places like CPA or even the big 4 companies trying to find custom solutions. Whereas what we're really trying to do is just for anyone out there running even a small business, that it just becomes relatively straightforward. And it's been quite difficult so far because people end up going to an expert. But we're hoping to make this just easier and the entry barrier kind of disappears.
Excellent. Well, if we thank you very much for that. Now, if we don't have any more questions, Jacob, how can people get in contact with you?
So please, of course, you've seen the website. You can go to the website. You can also email us directly at info@aemalgorithm.io. I could probably pop it in the chat as well, but I'm sure Heather's very organized and she always sends the email. So I'm sure you can find us there. But the easiest thing to do is just go to our website, and we actually do have a short domain name as well that I've shared, which is aem.ac. Just something a bit easier than algorithm can be a bit tricky. So just go to aem.ac, find us there, have a look at Journaler, and yeah, as I said, emailing info or even support. We're happy to answer questions, do workshops, because the biggest thing is if someone comes to you, kind of want to be ready to do those transactions. So we're happy just to assist and explain.
Thank you so much. I will, if there's no more questions, I'll end it there. That's excellent.